Heartfelt gratitude. I, Dr. Ishipal, Junior Resident from Department of Physiology, AIMS, New Delhi, take the privilege to welcome Professor K.K. Deepak, Head Department of Physiology, AIMS, New Delhi, Dean Examinations, and Organizing Secretary of this TIPS workshop, Techniques in Physiological Sciences 2021, Professor Debabrata Ghosh, Joint Organizing Secretary of this TIPS workshop, Professor Ratna Sharma ma'am from the Scientific Committee, Dr. Simran Kaur, Postgraduate Teaching in Charge, AIMS New Delhi, Dr. Renu Bhatia, Undergraduate Teaching in Charge, AIMS New Delhi, all my faculty members, colleagues, and my beloved delegates who had embraced this technological challenge in a smooth pursuit. I welcome all of you to the panel discussion, Skill Development in Physiology During and After COVID. Please, let's welcome this panel discussion with a round of applause. The umbrella of medical education has always revolved and evolved in response to the societal needs. The unprecedented COVID 19 has imposed global health concerns and has imposed the biggest challenge to medical fraternity, thus, fundamentally altering the landscape of medical education and research. The COVID 19 generation, that is, we all medical students, had undergone an extensive, integrated, and reflective modern technology based medical schooling. So, starting with our discussion addressing Professor K.K. Deepak, sir. Sir, I would request you to enlighten the House regarding the challenges that you had faced and the strategies that our department has adopted to enhance medical education, research, and examination in this COVID 19 era.
many people might have faced. But we always, at least I personally believe, any difficulty when it comes, it's always doing some kind of opportunity, some kind of a challenges which can be met, it becomes opportunity. So the first thing in medical education, at least the department did, we all put heads together, and then we started online meetings. And online meeting, even online meeting, faculty meetings online. I remember several meetings we had faculty meetings. So we did not do away with faculty meetings online, which actually gives us the idea and direction for the department. If you don't conduct a faculty meeting of any sort, then you cannot sort out the problem. So many faculty came up, and many young faculty came up, and they did answer the software platforms as well. They came up, got the software. It should also be asked institute to give us the software. They also gave, and finally that was a gain. That's a big gain. So the online classes started after some suspension of teaching other things, but then it was resumed. Similarly, post-graduate teaching, so online teaching, and I know several of them. So this is how we have actually not fully beaten, but beaten COVID loss during medical education. So medical education was the we could complete most of it. That was not a big issue. Regarding research, I'm not everything. Maybe I'll come back again how we have handled the research part and the thesis part and the part. Can give one example during the COVID crisis in the middle of it, a year, maybe 2 years. There were times when those who were doing anti-thesis could not complete, and they could not have completed it even now because of the COVID. Patient could not come, we could not correct people, we could not have people for the body, physiological body. So nobody was coming. Some thesis have to be changed. So we changed the topic. Not only this, the challenge came, can you do a thesis without getting paid? Without even getting charged? Because nobody expected that for next year that it will not the way this is happening. So we did have some examples that okay, we started from doing some meta analysis. We started doing like data mining, and then doing some kind of research which makes sometimes the meta analysis is more cited than some of the wet lab experiments. So that is another thing given. The third thing is if you talk of examination, if you talk of in-house examination like undergraduate and postgraduate, again, a lot of my faculty they came up with the idea. Especially look at the postgraduate in-house examination. So the set of questions were prepared, which can be given or delivered online, and the skill can be. So the tasks were given, analytical tasks were given. Some videos were shown and some other kind of things. Therefore, we are concerned that if this person knows this skill, so if he knows this skill, he would be able to answer those displayed through video or analytical. And at places like when you go to relaxation, usually like people will perform experiment at one side and then you put a video. Like doctor. So video may be from two angles or one angle. And person is performing and then person is standing. This would be. So this is another way we have gone. That's how I believe that if we start thinking how to tackle the problem, there are chances that we will be able to solve this problem. So this is one which we did in-house examination. So the final examination, we gave the option of online or offline, but then taking all COVID to follow. So if 4 or 5 people can come together, that was also. By that time, we knew that how COVID spread. So pretty much we could control that. So this is in-house and final exam. Anyway, we had so much of problem with the national level exam. But then even we had written COVID example, we would be surprised that only the 8 conducted examination, only with a lag of 1 or 2 or 3 months, not more than that. For that, we have to go and get special permissions. Thanks to the government of India, they gave blank permission, and we could have conducted examinations throughout the country with the help of all commissioners and all division magistrates. They gave us order that for purpose of examination, people are free who come and come. So people went there. So it was a tough time. So like all COVID put, all these things, like special permission from airlines, we got all of it, all support. So even this is only reconducted, I must say, within 2 3 months of less. That was even because of fourth or the thing. Otherwise, if you compare other examinations, you will see there are no like that. Need results and we are still waiting. But our results are still out. Most of the results are out. Proper MD or senior PhD, which last week. So I believe humans are more smarter than the COVID plan, and you should feel that when you beat them. So this is all I would like to say from my again, wherever you have questions. So thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So we can really see the novel and the crystallized approach that had been adopted by the system is truly indigenous. I would like to ask all my faculty members if they would want to give their valuable opinion regarding this topic. Any of our delegates would also. Thank you. Sure, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Savita from GMC Conference, a part of JMU. When this COVID happened, we had a new medical college. We had our first batch of the attack. We had a 2G problem. So ours was a medical college. We started online. We started 2G, started first with PPT, and then with the videos, and then finally, then those net connectivity was there. So we bought this new platform and we did start. And we did wonderfully well. But obviously, the students could not cope up with that. But still, we tried our level best. We had a competition of the students also. We made students to prepare the COVID competition and they did come up with videos and all. And we had a send to Dr. Deepa sir also. I sent the videos and he also complimented. But now the problem is that COVID has, it's not exactly a problem, but it has helped us a lot. Now we are trying to teach them something for the hybrid mode also. And as I said, we have started preparing our OSCEs and all that, we have started that. But still, physical is still better, but our students did really well because of that, and we were motivated, and us being a new medical college from all the medical colleges in Jammu scored good positions and all also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, we all have witnessed how this new normality had taken a huge toll on the research areas, with lab works getting discontinued, social distancing becoming the new norm. Thesis and research domains were almost at a halt. Addressing Professor Ghosh, sir. So, we would want to address that what are the preparedness and operational challenges that you feel that we all have faced to pursue research in this COVID era?
Basically, I suppose it's a good question. Very good question because this kind of situation, the pandemic or COVID or something else, since will come up and primarily because of the fact of that there is some change in the geophysiology and also our perception, our registration ability has increased enormously. Therefore, that perception of scary, scary situation like this COVID will come. And inevitably, and when it is pandemic, it becomes business of everyone. Nobody can really escape. Be it scientists, educationists, or man in the ivory tower. So the lesson that we might have accrued from this exposure of pandemic and the hardness, the struggles, the challenges that we face, probably could be somewhere shortlisted. And I'm pretty doubtful whether I have that confidence. But I think we still can put our heads together in the process. I was contemplating that what would be the lesson for tomorrow if we are challenged with similar kind of situation, so that we are ready for it. First thing I realized that in such situation, as a researcher, scientist, like a team member or team leader, first thing is that we should slow down, start contemplating that, what is the situation and how we are going to manage it. And we should be mutually interacting with each other within the team for seeing how they are doing and how possibly we can put our heads together to face the challenge. Now that should be the practice, and I don't think we have that much of practice in most of the places where this is in practice. There. The other thing I realized is that we should make ourselves equipped, being digitally educated. Scientists of our genre have this disease, but today and tomorrow, the need of being digitally educated, digitally conversant is almost obligatory, because we have to learn to work remote. And when you work remotely, it's just not putting on Zoom or putting on Skype or things like that. It's basically even data analysis. I can exchange with my team members, probably using the cloud platform and so on and so forth. And there you need to be a little more digitally educated than on average running and doing, because the data security will come. And you can also invite analysis in the cloud platform. So for that, we need to know how these procedures are done, and better we learn today, taking COVID as our educator, the COVID situation. There are a few other points. I just try to think and jot down. But before that, if you give me the liberty of telling an apology to Dr. Simran and Dr. Tinu. There is a story goes along with Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was asked by the journalist, and Winston Churchill was a very good orator. I'm not saying I'm a good. So, and the journalist asked that, sir, if you are given a topic, how long you can speak of? He said, what is the topic? He said, preparing omelette. He said, how long will you give me for preparation? He said, 2 hours. So he said, maybe I can speak for 2 days. And then the journalist thought, 2 hours, based on 2 hours, we can speak for 2 days. So he said, okay, I give you 2 days. He said, maybe I will take 20 minutes. And he was amazed. And then he said, okay, I give you 20 days. He said, probably I will take 2 minutes. See, basically, what I'm trying to say is that for any situation, contemplation is very important. Thinking is very important. And Indians are known to be argumentative and not thinking nation. It's not my word, it's Neeraj. So, besides being remotely prepared and looking for the mutual convenience of my team members and their mental health and other things, that's very important to keep track on almost on regular basis. What I realized very closely, that when we make the research program, research thesis or hypothesis, maybe in future we'll have to have a plan B beside the original hypothesis. Assuming that with a very short notice, if something like this challenge comes to our door, we should have a rapid recourse rather than thinking at that point. So those, especially those who will be tomorrow's mentor, they should try to inculcate to have such kind of plan B. God forbid, if something happens untoward, how my student or students can maneuver and sail through never do. So it's not a bad idea to have plan B. But as you know, to take to the plan B, you will have to have a discussion with others, those who are experts, to get it ratified by the authorities. And so
That's important, and we should be conversant with that idea. Because in the medical school, we do two kinds of research where we are very have close proximity to the human subject and animal subjects. Protects their health, their integrity is very, very important. And as I already mentioned, having the communication in all possible ways with your team members is very important. And communication just not on what are you doing, what kind of data you generated, is it analyzed, so on and so forth. These are all common sense, but most of the time, as probably we will all acknowledge, we forget. And supporting junior colleagues. But in my very limited experience with the COVID situation in AIMS in the last almost 2 years or so, is that my junior faculty supported me more than I could support. But I think I had always good intention to help them, and that's probably always there. But it is good to reiterate, good to think top down and try to practice. Try to keep things in perspective. We have an innate trend to become hyper, whether it is COVID or not recognizing COVID. Some people were so afraid that they thought that even thinking of COVID can be dangerous. And some people thought that, I'm so daredevil, what is COVID? It's just nothing. I think we have to have the perspective, especially for my entire team with which I am into the discussion. These are the 7-10 points 9-10 points I just thought about and jotted down. The basic essence is that if you allow me to make a summary out of it, though honestly, Dr. Dinu and Dr. Sibran didn't give me that time. That's why I refer to Winston Churchill's story. I am probably to great extent blabbering because I'm not great. But if you allow me to summarize the whole thing as I was trying, and I got probably 3-4 minutes, Dr. Dinu, not more than that. I thought 3 things are important, and we all know it. We need to be digitally, but we had that inertia. ठीक है हो जाएगा, मेरा दुनिया को आते हैं हो जाएगा. But if you want to work remotely, where is your junior? So you better become digitally educated, conversant, so that you can at least try to come on the same page. Another important thing is impact. Again, Osmita knows better than me, Dr. Osmita. She had worked on impact, if I remember correctly. But as I told her that day and even today, impact is to be practiced. And how it can be gathered in the workshop. So COVID gave us that chance. And in future, if such situation comes, we take it positively. And we can prove ourselves a little more a personality of having better impact to everything, not just team members, to everyone. And third important thing is pragmatism. Any challenge gives you opportunity, as Professor correctly said. If the challenge, you can take it and sit down and say, oh, kuch nahi hoga. Or you can convert challenge situation to something else, and you can win. Essentially, you could be pragmatic. To convert a challenging situation to a better handling and maybe doing something entirely different. The last thing, which is absolutely my personal experience, is that use such time to do something otherwise you couldn't do. I have always thought that I will sit down sometime and try to understand how possibly Leonardo da Vinci contributed physiological knowledge, who is of course an artist. And I could at least use some time to look into this matter. I think that's a cue we all can do it, rather than just wasting time, nothing to be done, and etc. So that's it. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your words of wisdom. So, we see the necessity to develop a sustainable platform and also evaluate its effectiveness is quite a struggle and also an achievement. During this COVID era, we saw how recruitment of patients had become such a cumbersome process. Addressing Professor Ratna Sharma, ma'am, how do you oversee planning future research projects and allocation of patients and MD thesis topics?
Platform through which I can build up. It was a unique situation that required unique solutions, and that was happening globally. So there was no need to get anxious about it. That was one saving grace that every one of us was suffering the same thing. So we had to keep ourselves sane and keep our students sane. I mean, that was a task. They were the ones who were isolated in single hostel rooms. So we were calling them. We had to tell them that pieces will be done. We will have ways of making sure that they get their degrees. Not, I mean, on time, not absolutely, but relatively. So basically, when I was asked to speak about this, there are few things that I will talk about. That is how to plan research topics or research projects, procurement, then recruitment of subjects or patients, logistics of operational challenges, and they were given to me by Aishi, very smart student. I mean, this is what smart students need to do. They give you challenges of preparing something. She gave me topics and asked me to speak on that. So it was, like what we do to you in seminar. Anyway, I so what I will talk about, not necessarily in this sequence, but when this happened, there were two options. One was to pick up or grab those hot areas of research, which basically meant I mean, anything and everything related to pathophysiology of COVID. And being physiologists, I mean, we deal with the whole body. So the first thing was, okay, the respiratory consequences. So, like planning for future projects involved, fine. You study the mechanics of respiration and every aspect of respiration, whatever is happening in COVID, and the cardiovascular system. And then as time passed, we realized that no, there are neurological symptoms as well. And there are other, like the hormonal milieu is going haywire. So, I mean, it was the whole physiology that one could cater to in COVID. So, and then there were research calls, what do you say, project proposal calls from several funding agencies. Like one of the hot areas that started a little after 6 months, I suppose, was yoga. Like Satyam gave a call for yoga projects on yoga based therapies for COVID. So these were the areas, or these were the hot topics which were coming up very quickly. And there was an opportunity, and there is still an opportunity to catch on these topics. Right? But then the challenge at that time and even now is which kind of patients to work on, which kind of, what kind of data to collect, whether to collect from active patients, which we did not know at that time, and even now we don't know how many active patients are we going to get by the time I write my thesis protocol or research project. It may be now, or it may still continue. Then another option that is still very valid is working on post-COVID patients. Fine. So that was something based on which several faculty members of our department I know very well. They wrote projects. They submitted their projects to ICMR. Almost all of them got a second call. Their concept proposals were accepted, and they finally also few of them got ICMR projects. So that was one way of going about research, in the sense that you write projects which are the hot areas, cash on the whatever is the prevailing situation, and get funding. Second thing was thesis. Now thesis is something. I mean, projects are also very important, but thesis is something that involves the time of a student. So we take that as a very, that responsibility, it is the guide's responsibility to see to it that everything will be provided. The timeline will be such that the student will be able to finish the work, and it is totally my responsibility. I would take it like that. So what was the option? One was work on control patients, because there are some pieces which, for example, MSc pieces, that takes only about a year. I mean, they get only a year. MD pieces, I should say 1.5 years. Then PhD is something which takes around 3 to 4 years for collecting experimental data. So that is something we are not too much bothered about. But main concern is MSc and MD pieces in our department. So where we kind of thought very collectively that we could work on control subjects, and also most of our labs have enormous amount of data collected already, which is lying there waiting to be analyzed. As people said right in the beginning, and Aishi is the person who took up this challenge of meta-analysis of the already existing data. We also have, for example, in our lab, I mean, we have data of about 500 plus patients, both EEG and cognitive tasks, which can easily be given to a student if this kind of situation appears again. You know, like at that time, the pieces which were conceived were based on these basic premises only, that okay, if the data is to be collected, it should be such that it is on control subjects. Because remember, even getting control subjects in such a time is not a very easy task. So you commit something which can be done amongst us. You know, take those age groups which will be available to us, not 60 plus age group. I mean, it will be unethical to call them to aims for collection of any kind of data. So those are the things which we were taking into consideration. And then, like one very doable thing which, like people wrote also, Simran also wrote a project, compare the data of the control subjects which we already have with the post-COVID patients. So, like whatever data you have, collect them in post-COVID patients and compare and see what is happening. For example, the loss in cognitive tasks, loss or any other neurological symptoms, or any other cardiovascular system. That is something which is being done. I mean, when you enter convergence or teaching blog, you've seen those posters which pertain to Dr. Deepak's lab. So data is being collected. And then again, how to go about research. When it started, let's say last year around August or September, we came back after that, severe lockdown and all of that. Then it was our responsibility to see to it that whatever could be done was being done, taking all the necessary precautions. The routines of the lab had to be adjusted in such a way, and in future also we have to plan now in such a way that we make proper, planning, proper diaries, where at a time only one student is recording, and even the recording procedures. For example, in our lab, one of the major challenge that we had was how to place the EEG neck, because for that we felt, I mean, normally there is no mask. So, and we have electrodes which cover the cheek and the chin also. So that is something we had to, do recordings with 2 or 3 types of masks and see which one is giving us the right kind of resistance or impedance, and then we can go ahead with recording. Then there was one student whose thesis had to be submitted by November, not November, in fact, October. He is appearing from tomorrow. So he had to collect salivary samples for cortisol estimation. We had to omit that. So in the future, next 2 or 3 years, we will not commit to collecting salivary samples because of obvious reasons. So these are the kind of changes that we have to do to our protocols, and then we have to also apply again to the ethical committee to get the appropriate approvals. Right? So resubmission had to be done. We are still doing it. We reduce the number of subjects, and then the kind of MBA students we have, they are very, they were okay, with lower number of subjects, what will be the value of my study? So we had to, kind of console them. We had to tell them that after your thesis is submitted, you will recruit more subjects when time is fine. And then it is basically the research article that you write after your thesis. For that, we will allow them, not only allow them, but encourage them to do the rest of the cases and reanalyze the data, and so that they remember for their lifetime that, okay, this is what they committed for their MD thesis and this is what they have achieved. So that is something that we plan to do. Okay, so in the important thing is that give importance to data collection when the times are right. Like to the PhD students, we are saying that now is the right time, collect data and then try. I'm not saying it's mandatory, but try to procure systems that have an appropriate ability for data analysis. Like what Dr. Ghosh said, that we have to start training ourselves for digitally, for analyzing the signal in a way that we have not felt in the past, right? So even yesterday when Dr. Sudhir Sinha said about MATLAB, that is something that I felt was one chance for all of us, and some of us did also, while COVID was going on, learn these kind of programs. Like even I used to sit at home and open all these. Everything is available in YouTube. In fact, the potential of that thing, YouTube, which I used to think is only for entertainment purposes, you realize, oh no, it can teach you so much. The whole of statistics, the whole of data analysis, signal processing, there are good videos, series of videos from very good universities, Stanford and other universities. You just have to sit and learn them. You can interact with them, and some of the students have done that. So, as Dr. Ghosh said, we have learned a lot during this time to change.
Us who have joined during COVID. So, how laborious was it to allocate MD thesis topics to us? Because there was an asynchronous interaction with the students. Yet, it was very difficult to allocate thesis topics where we could not take into consideration patients. So, we would want Deepak sir's valuable opinion onto this.
So the topic, what I believe when you're thinking one person, and many people are thinking, whenever the problem comes, involve many people, think and get a solution. So if you involve other people, that's what I think in this program department, is that we sit together and try to look for the solution. If you being specific for this question and answer, is when we know the scenario that patient will not be available, what is that? How else you can do it, what kind of research. And one more thing I went ahead with this. During this, I thought people will not collect a lot of data of how the public will come, how the research will come. And I thought many people have a lot of resources in terms of data, what is being researched. So why not go ahead with the data analytics and data analysis and still publish? I know people who can do a very good publication without bench work by using their brains and other things. It is as equally important as collecting data. Although data is very important, but when it cannot be collected, we should harness our full power which has. Like medical hypothesis is a journal which publishes your idea. If you have an idea, do it. If you don't have an idea, how to do the better? imagine. So I think it is important to really strong, and that's how we have solved it. So I will not go much beyond considering part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we see the perception of students always remains one of the most important and falling criteria to see the learning experiences. Addressing Dr. Simran Kaur, postgraduate teaching in charge, AIMS, New Delhi. Ma'am, how did the virtual platform represent a convenient mode of learning without sacrificing the opportunities with engagement with peers and faculty during this time?
So thank you, Aishi. Yeah, indeed, as everybody has addressed such kind of question, maintaining in a virtual platform, especially for the students, it was a challenge. As a postgraduate teaching in charge, attentiveness, gathering their information, and then translating into the academic activity was one of the biggest challenge which we feared in postgraduate education. So, as the platforms, though they were existent, but we were new to the platforms, even the faculty as well as the students. So, we did create some of the SOPs, how to go about platform, which platform is good for the ease of the postgraduate teaching. And we familiarize students as well as the faculty for the use of those platforms. Now, if I talk about the postgraduate teaching at AIMS Physiology, we have two kind of teaching modules. One is student-centered and one is leader-centered. So we have seminars and symposiums, which are usually the leader-centered activities, whereas group discussions, journal clubs are participant-centric activities. So what we perceived from what feedback we got from the students using the virtual platform, we understood that for the leader centered activities, for seminars and symposiums, the virtual platform was as good as the physical platform. But for participant centric activities, wherein more of interactions was required, for example, group discussions or the journal clubs, so there was some kind of lack of attentiveness and participation from the student side. So actually, we tried to innovate our teaching methodology with respect to that. So we did something known as structured virtual group discussion. So with more of interactions, we actually formulated mini groups, then we allocated tasks, we met repeatedly rather than meeting on the final day of group discussion, and we discussed those topics holistically with the students based on one-to-one interactions. So this is just an example. So such kind of modules or tweaking can be done during such unprecedented scenarios in order to actually enhance the attentiveness of the students. Nevertheless, what Dr. Ghosh has already implied on empathy, one-to-one interactions beyond academics, I mean, that is the key. You cannot go on during these tough times talking about academics only. So we have to actually empathize with our students, with co-faculties, and dwell upon the non-academic arenas as well. So with this, Aishi, I think I will quickly sum up. Thank you.
So we have also seen the heterogeneous characteristics of our undergraduate students, and they becoming so bored during the didactic lectures, so affecting the undergraduate teaching at large. Addressing Dr. Renu Bhatia, undergraduate teaching in charge, AIMS, New Delhi. Ma'am, how do you perceive the virtual on-hand training of undergraduate students? Has the learning curve of this online sessions of practical classes been affected? Ma'am, your take on it.
Thank you, Aishi, for this very relevant question. And I'm sure it resonates with feeling of many of our delegates, especially the online delegates I have seen as a member of scientific committee, that how important is hands-on training and practice of any practical that or any kind of workshop. So yes, we did face this challenge. There was a sudden onset of pandemic. We were not really prepared that how long we can just go ahead with our physical classes, and suddenly on 5th of April, I vaguely remember, our exam was cancelled and meticulously planned 6 monthly schedule fell flat. So what to do now? So we started with online lectures, which were surprisingly very successful. Our senior faculty, they were really appreciated by the students, and one-to-one feedback revealed that the theory lectures were really good even in online mode. But as far as practicals were concerned, we really faced a lot of problem initially. Some of the practicals, I would say most of the practicals in medical sciences, they require one-to-one interaction with the teacher. Pipetting the blood in COVID times, it was almost impossible. Then clinical examinations, total no to that. And with masks on, with no touch policy here. So it was very difficult for us to catch up with the practical exercises for our students. But careful planning, gradually we learned how to go about careful planning. And it was a coordinated effort between the academic section, the three departments, the teaching in charge, our faculty, and I would add our residents. They played a very, very important role, our demonstrators. And we had one-to-one in small groups. Practical classes were arranged, and the topics were such that we tried to cover up as much theory as possible initially, and then we left the practicals, which could be later taken up when the pandemic was coming to its last stages. And it to some extent it helped. We were able to complete the practicals, and we had 2 full months before the final exams where we could practice the physical practicals, where they required actual hands-on training with appropriate social distancing. For that, I would like to thank Dr. Akansha for her repeated reminders to us, to the students in the lab, and it was possible. And before the examination, I would like to add that we had to carefully, plan and tell our examiners also, prepare a list of practicals. I'm sure all of you must have done it as a teacher, to just see for the benefit of students which practicals were taken up online and which were taken up offline, and how much practice our students did. And we added those practicals, main practicals, for our examination purpose. So I think these were some of the measures that we took. And along with that, what Dr. Simran mentioned, that empathy, one-to-one interaction with children, students, I would say, that was the key to winning this particular game. The challenge that was we were faced, and we could handle it. And the results are good. And we have few failures only, and the students could do well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. So we see the effectiveness of any medical education does require an objective settlement. So if any of our delegates would want to speak about their experiences or how they had conducted their examination, are most welcome. So, coming to the closure of the panel discussion, we say that erudition is the premise of becoming a doctor, as education should be man making, life giving, and character making. The development of a comprehensive, effective, and an operational virtual COVID curriculum was a really challenging task that we all had faced. Department of Physiology, AIMS New Delhi, had reinforced the importance of team learning and helped all of us institute a seamless teaching and research program. So I thank all of you for attending this session, and all my panel faculty members and all my delegates to attend this session. Thank you so much. The valedictory program will be commencing from 3 p.m. So we ask the delegates to please stay back at the conference hall. Thank you.
साइंटिफिक रिपोर्ट के इसी पे कॉपी कर दीजिए. Can I run it quickly?